That's right. We got a lot coming at us and a lot of decisions to make, but we live in that land of opportunity where we do have those options and the free will to dive into all the stuff and the lifestyle.
And it's not my fault. Apple keeps coming out with a new version.
Yeah, there you go. You said it.
Kids want the new video games.
Yeah.
So the new agave brand of tequila that's coming out. It's not our fault.
It's not our fault.
We're being intimidated.
I mean, I love how innovative our culture is. It's amazing. It's where I would want to be. It's where everybody wants to come. We all want to be here. But the amount of money that's spent on marketing and advertising per year is $400 billion. We're the number one in the world spending on advertising. So what's the number one message we're getting on a daily basis? We all know it. It's in our email, it's on the billboards, it's on our phones, it's on our screens. It's we're being marketed to. We're being told to buy. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew Armihan, alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianco. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, listen very carefully, because today we're going to communicate well, and we're going to communicate about a subject that is very difficult for everyone to communicate about, and that's finance. Yeah, we're going to communicate about communication.
Let's go.
Today on the podcast, we have Scott Yamamura. He is the coach and author behind Financial Epiphany. Scott, thank you for joining us on the podcast. And let's start at the beginning. What are your 3 epiphanies for finances?
Yeah, absolutely. For many of us, money is intimidating. It's overwhelming. We feel like an imposter, like it's not for us. But I want to let people know you can own this thing. It's simple enough that you can do this yourself. Own your personal finances. So the first thing we need to do is make money freeze, because this is just constantly roving variables otherwise. So I tell people, what is the most simple path to understanding finance, such as multiplying our money and understanding compound interest. It is to start a career at age 22. That's the most common age to start. The average duration of a career is 40 years. And a common rate of return to earn from investments such as a 401k or index funds or things like that is 7.2%. Now, when you freeze money like this, it's the foundation that allows a lot more to be understood about money, because it's not moving around. You're making it sit still long enough for us to understand it. So when you do that, when you pick the most common path that people will take to investing their money, we get to these 3 financial epiphanies. Now, the first one is when money's multiplying by 7.2% per year annually, it's actually doubling every 10 years. That plays upon what's called the rule of 72, right? So if money is growing at 7.2% per year, 10 years later, it's doubling without adding $1 more. You put $1,000 in, you wait 10 years, it's $2,000. And that's the foundation right there. That is the first epiphany, is just locking money down and understanding for the most common scenario, that's what's happening. Now, when you do that, now I can build upon that and have a second epiphany, which is, all right, well, who works 10 years? If money doubles every 10 years, let's extrapolate across a career, 40 years. Well, then money, without putting in $1 more, is doubling once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So 1,000 can turn into 2,000, can double into 4,000, can double into 8,000, and finally 16,000 by the time we retire. Now we know an input, and now we know an output. And I always say that for most people, who wants to wait 40 years, we're now minded, where you want immediate gratification. And so what I do for folks like that is flip things around and say, well, instead of saying you'll have $16,000 later if you invest $1,000 now at the start of your career, I like to say you have the power of 16 right now. I flip things around and say you have this multiplying power of 16 when you start your career. So it's not about money anymore. It's actually about your ability, like an athletic ability. And if you have this multiplying power of 16, it actually diminishes over time. You're in your prime when you start your career. which most people don't understand that's the time. We get told save early, but we don't know why, and we haven't quantified it. This finally quantifies it by saying the power of 16. And then the final epiphany, this is the one that wraps it all up and says, well, every 10 years, your multiplying power halves. So if you start your career with a multiplying power of 16, because we've quantified it 10 years later in our early 30s, it's the multiplying power of 8. And then 10 years later in our early 40s, it's the multiplying power of 4. And in our 50s, 2. And then hopefully we're enjoying the fruits of our labor in our 60s. But when we understand that our multiplying power is halving every 10 years, generally speaking, then it causes a sense of urgency. When we lose our multiplying power, which is what happens for the average investor, they understand we need to act now. Now I've quantified what's happening. It matters to act now rather than wait 10 years. So those are the 3 financial epiphanies. There are 3 rules of thumb that simply explain for the average person what's happening when they invest, to get them to do it with confidence and get them to do it early and for the long term.
As Americans, we are a consumer society. For some reason, we just love to spend, right?
Yeah.
There are macroeconomic conditions behind that. It'll probably take us years of conversation to whittle it down. But how do you balance that sense of urgency in saving with those 3 epiphanies, and also having to attain those 2.7 cars and the white picket fence, et cetera?
Yeah, that's right. We got a lot coming at us and a lot of decisions to make, but we live in that land of opportunity where we do have those options and the free will to dive into all the stuff and the lifestyle.
And it's not my fault. Apple keeps coming out with a new version.
Yeah, there you go. You said it.
Kids want the new video games.
Yeah.
So the new agave brand of tequila that's coming out. It's not our fault.
It's not our fault.
We're being intimidated.
I mean, I love how innovative our culture is. It's amazing. It's where I would want to be. It's where everybody wants to come. We all want to be here. But the amount of money that's spent on marketing and advertising per year is $400 billion. We're the number 1 in the world spending on advertising. So what's the number 1 message we're getting on a daily basis? We all know it. It's in our email, it's on the billboards, it's in our phones, it's on our screens. It's we're being marketed to. We're being told to buy. And so if that's the main message we're getting, and we're looking around at people's Facebooks and their Instagrams, we're all having the time of our lives, which takes money to do. We're on great vacations. We got the stuff. We're driving the car. We got the home. And so if that's what our culture is, we gotta battle that, because we owe it to ourselves to know this money thing, right? Learning doesn't just stop at high school or at college. We got to keep learning. We may not have ever gotten that message on money from our parents or in school. So we owe it to ourselves to seek this out. And if 78% of people are living paycheck to paycheck, if 77% of people are in debt, and there's a low level of financial literacy among most Americans, we got to do something about it, because we're silently suffering otherwise. So we got to seek this thing out. So that's why I go for simple, because most people are not at this savvy place of understanding money. Most people just need a simple solution. That's why I target simple 3 rules of thumb, because once you understand those, it's enough to take you over the edge to take confident action. And just to return to that ability, that word ability, I do like to say understanding this multiplying power is like understanding you have an athletic ability. So if NFL football players and Olympic gymnasts and ice skaters, they're in their, it's common for professional athletes to be in their primes, in their early 20s. Well, then the same is true for money for most people. Yes, a savvy person can work around this, but for the average American, we are in our primes when we start our careers with multiplying money. That's what they mean when they say compound interest.
You don't have to worry about that. None of our listeners are average. Everyone listening is extraordinary. So you don't have to worry about that.
Okay, you're going to edit that one? Hey, I believe it. I believe it. You know, you gotta attract the people that are trying to take things one step further.
Scott, let's go back to your original start point, the 22-year-old that's going to work, right? That 22-year-old may have some student loans, right? It took him or her some startup capital to create that career. Where do you astutely allocate income and revenue to
Yes.
that debt versus that need to grow.
Right. So yeah, when we understand, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time just finishing this thought. When we understand we're like an athlete that has this time to act, this time to steward this ability, it's like being told, all right, you can play football, you can play soccer, you can play baseball, and you're only going to be good this long. Let's say we're in debt. So that's like let's say we have poor grades in school and we can't play our sport, the thing we're gifted at, because we have those poor grades. We got to work on those poor grades so that we can get on the field. We got to work on our debt so that we can multiply our money. So that's why I like coming from the positive, saying you have this ability. I'm your coach. You got to take advantage of this now. Don't let this chance slip by because your multiplying power is only diminishing. So when you come from a place of positivity like that versus don't do this, don't do that, don't spend this, don't spend that, that's why I like that athletics parallel. So yeah, so it's basically teaching people about the debt snowball if they need to know that. It's, hey, if you got credit card debt and that's your smallest debt, pay that off. You can stop your retirement fund. You're funding your retirement account in order to pay that off, and take care of your debt first. Then take care of that car loan if that's the next biggest one, and then take care of your student loan if that's the next biggest one. Saving the house for last, since that's long term. But once you get those small debts out of the way, now you're not juggling anymore. Now you're not overwhelmed, right? Money is overwhelming. Every dollar feels like it's allocated plus some.
I don't
so
know.
I
don't know if I agree with you there on that one. So I'm going to push back a little bit, right? I think no matter what your paycheck is, if you get paid twice a week, the first 10% of that paycheck comes out like it's not even there. And then you go and pay your debt and do whatever else you need to do.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're constantly setting yourself up for, let's use easy numbers here. If you make $1,000 a week, you put away $100, right? It's not there. So you're working off 900. Okay. As far as debt where it's unsecured, I would pay that off last before secured stuff, right? I wouldn't really go with the interest rate because we could always negotiate out of or lower interest on unsecured debt and push the payments out if you do that. But I think the key here is just to actually start saving first, right? Because the minute you start saving, the minute we can run with your multiplying factor.
I like what you're saying. I definitely do. So one way of looking at it is customized to the person's personality. Some people are going to be doing that and pull that off. Others, they got into this trouble, which was not math. So math's not going to get them out. It's a behavior thing. So I think it depends on the person, and a coach can totally look at their situation and says, I think you can do this, or, hey, you gotta take this other route. So I definitely hear what you're saying there.
Break it down though. You simplify it so nicely. Look, you start saving at 22, you multiply your money by 16, right? By the time you go to retire. But then you're going to find, everybody else out there and be like, okay, but what do I do now? Do I put my money into an IRA? Do I put my money into the 401k plan? Should I just start trading stocks? Should I buy the latest meme crypto of the week?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody, since we said most people need simple, start simple. So I just tell people like Warren Buffett, an S&P 500 index fund or a target date mutual fund. So start out simple and then learn about what you're doing, because it's the time matters. So if you started out simple and let a decade pass and your money already doubled, now you believe in it because you saw that happen. And now you can get savvy because you believe in it. Now you're like, okay, let me optimize from here. And that's actually exactly what I did. I started out simple, saw the results, trusted it, and then said, okay, let's stretch this further. And I think for most people, that's what they need. Now you can certainly get savvier earlier. You can get started and be like, I'm studying this tomorrow, and let's get this the best it can be.
Scott, Scott, you're a very good communicator. Can you give Matt and I, because we're also head of households, we have wives, we have children. Can you give us some tips to communicate these notions clearly to our spouses and our children? Because one thing is for us to be fiscally fluent, right? But then don't you want to teach the next generation? And also, don't you want to share these notions with your spouses?
You got it. And I'm married and I have a teenage son right now. And finance, I'm the visionary. Okay. So I come up with the plan and my wife's the executor. So people think it's funny that I don't pay the bills. Well, that's her executing every day. Yes, that is money, but I'm the visionary. So come up with the plan. So get this. So when my son was 7 years old, I said, okay, now's the time. I'm going to start teaching him about money. And so we started his 529, his college savings account at that time. And we saved. And then we stopped at age 9. My wife says to me, what are we doing? Don't we need to keep saving until he goes to college? Why are we stopping? What are we doing here? And I said, well, you just wait and watch. We're going to put this into practice. If money doubles every 10 years, we got what we got in there now. It can double by the time he's ready to go to college. He's 16 now, and it did double. And the growth of those funds, it doubled in less than 10 years, was faster than the growth of tuition. So he's been ready to go to college for a long time now with what we set up and front loaded. They saw that. So I showed my son the whole time. I say, hey, look at your college account, look at the letter that came in the mail. Look at what it's growing to. It doubled. He gets it now. He's not afraid of the stock market. I used to hear growing up, it was like gambling to invest in the stock market, which is, as you know, it's just believing in if it's an index fund in the top 500 companies of America. We trust that. We believe in that. So
but
I got over that.
The tools changed, Scott. The tools changed. When Matt and I were kids, we used to open up that newspaper and you saw a list of all these numbers. Like, what are these numbers? Oh my God. It's just so intimidating. But then Robinhood comes in and they gamify the whole thing. So your son is like, whoa, man, I'm in the stock market. Yeah, I'm buying some fun stuff.
Let's not also forget, not too long ago, we could have put our money in a CD and made 8%.
and got a
toaster.
I love it. Yeah, you're right. And we got to be discerning, right? So new stuff's coming in. You got all sorts of places to put your money. That's why I boil it down to it's your personal choice. What do you feel comfortable with? Obviously, I don't want you to get too risky starting out. You can get risky later with a certain percentage is what I talk about. But I go with, what is the tried and true? What is the bulk of what's happening here? Because there's always going to be new ways and new asset classes and this and that. But start out simple and then
So
customize
do you
from there.
lean more towards the markets or real estate, or what is your choice there?
Yeah, well, I personally like a mix of both, but to stay liquid and to see these results and to be hands off at first. So I tell people, get in the markets. You can always get into real estate later to diversify, but obviously you can't be juggling too many balls. I like to say start in the markets because it's, more passive. You just open that letter, you look at it and you say, all right, I like it. But then real estate, just love it as a way to balance things out.
When people
that's
to
later.
me and they're not really market savvy, I just tell them, look, go by the diamonds, go by the Qs, go by the spiders. They're ETFs. Just let them sit there and don't worry about it. Buy the markets.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Because that works for everybody. There's certain people that'll rise above that want to get savvy, but once again, it's a numbers game. So go for the masses, and then you can take certain people further than that are ready for it.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to make this opportunity slide because I've got a former investment banker and I've got the financial epiphaner here. So I'm gonna roll with this. What do you guys think about this age-old ratio that always gets moved? Bonds, equities. What's your take? And I want both of you to chime in.
Yeah. Okay, bonds versus equities. I believe in start out equities. Some people might want to do 90% or 100%. I believe start out that way. Yeah, definitely bonds later. So you're going to hear different stories from different people. If we skip all the way to the end of the story here and say 5 years before you retire, you want to shift towards something that's more conservative. Some people might say start transitioning 10 years before. That's up to you and your comfort level. You need to be able to sleep at night, right? So you're talking about this needs to be customized by a professional for you and talked through. But yeah, I believe in full equities and then riding that out for a couple decades or more, and then you can start shifting.
Matthew, door number 2. What do you say?
Antiquated. I think that 60-40 bond, 50-50 bond, 90-10 bond right before you retire is antiquated. I think there's new financial instruments out there that weren't around when those formulas were created. I think you'll get better tax efficiency by utilizing different vehicles such as IRAs or even 401k plans. I'm I'm a big believer. I like real estate, right? It really depends on where you feel,
Yeah.
where you fit, right?
Mhm.
Let's use some numbers
Yeah.
here. If you're a business owner, you have a lot of tax mitigation you can do. Okay. If you're just a higher earning W-2 employee where you're making $300,000 to $400,000 a year, you don't have a lot of tax mitigation unless you get with a good tax strategist that can do something for you, right? So tax efficiency is what every business owner should be looking at, because at the end of the day, if you ask a business owner what their number one expense is going to be, and 9 out of 10 of them are going to be wrong, they're going to tell you it's payroll, right? They're going to tell you it's labor costs. It's not that. It's taxes, right? They're working to give 40% of what they make to the government. So if that's 40%, right? So think about that. How do we mitigate that 40% down? By utilizing the tax law and strategies that are allowed for us, so we can take that money and invest it to use it later on. Because what you wind up having with small business owners is 80% of their net worth is tied up in that business. So once that business goes away, there's no more income coming in. So they're hoping and praying that they could sell it for the price that they need to get, right, to cover that living.
Right.
Oh, that round one was fun. Let's do round two. What do you guys think about dividend stocks, right? Like, it's one thing to save, but some of these stocks, they actually send you a check every quarter. Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah, I love it. I think if you're going to diversify, you want to look at dividend stocks as part of your portfolio. Absolutely, get that guaranteed money. Now, some of those equities may seem boring because they're guaranteeing that, but you need that to balance things out. So I definitely agree with having that as a piece of the pie. You can decide how much a piece of the pie. I don't look at that. I go back to, the simple solution for most people is get into that index fund. So you're not picking and choosing. But I will say this, here's something on the side to finish that story about my family and how I teach finances. I started a custodial account for my son, when he was, say, 9 years old. And I let him pick single stocks. I said, okay, for your birthday, what do you want? Want Amazon? Got it. What do you want for Christmas? Okay, you want Netflix? Got it. So he kept choosing within a small selection we put in front of him. He chose the single stocks. And when the pandemic happened,
I'm curious. Hold on. As a 10-year-old, what was he picking? Hasbro?
It was like we would create the pool and he would pick from the pool. So it was companies he knew about. It was Netflix. It was Amazon. I got when it was all about VR headsets. This is my favorite one. I said, hey, let's get into this NVIDIA one. What do you think about NVIDIA? And he got in when it was before the AI boost happened, and now that was a fun one to watch.
Now he's going to Princeton.
Yeah. So he gets it really, really early. It was worth his holiday and his birthday money. But teaching about those single stocks, he gets it now, and he's only 16 years old. He didn't get that fear built into him like I did. And so good I just want to say that on the side.
Wonderful experience you gave a young man. Awesome. That's great.
Gary Vaynerchuk, he was telling a story one time. He goes, people think I'm a real big creep because I spend a lot of my time talking to 13 and 14-year-old girls because I want to see what platform they on, what they're buying, what they're doing, right? Because he's tracking patterns, right? He's seeing trends, right? And generally speaking, guys like us aren't starting any trends, but so it's pretty funny. But in the video, that was a great buy with that. But yeah, he picked some amazing ones during the pandemic, huh?
Once again, and then he walked when the pandemic happened, and he understood. He tied it in. A disruptor sent ordering stuff from home and delivery up. So he saw Amazon go up. So when streaming went up through the pandemic, he saw Netflix go up. So he understands how a market condition can affect the stock price.
I think it's pretty cool, right? When I started on Wall Street, I didn't know what a stock was, to be honest with you. My parents didn't even know what a stock, bond, or mutual fund was, what the difference was. So nobody ever taught me about that. The cool thing about today is kids are investing earlier, and it's the cool thing to do. Yeah. Robinhood, during the pandemic, made it fun. They gamified everything. So they're getting the younger generation involved. So I think we're going to have a generation. I think it just came out that, what was it? Millennials have more money than boomers at their age. The report just came out.
Oh, yeah, that comparison.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with them investing early, right? And I think it's
Yeah.
becoming.
Because the boomer was buying the convertible. This younger generation doesn't want to buy stuff. They want to take an Uber.
No, they're
Yeah.
putting all their money in the market and they're investing, they're trading, and I think it's a good thing. Mark Andreessen from Andreessen Horowitz, during the pandemic, I was listening to something. He really believed that we were going to go into an AI world, which is where we're heading right now, and we're going to go from a working class society to an investor based society, and it's kind of happening if you think about it. You know, most people, their side hustle is trading. Most people, their side hustle is investing. They're doing something else, and their number one source of income is still probably a job right now. But I think we're going to see that shift over the years.
Yeah, making it accessible has everything to do with it, and taking away that myth that this is not for me. You know, we're not imposters on our own money. This is our responsibility to know this stuff and to be engaged, because people don't realize your 401k plan every year can be making as much as you do. If it's like, I call it building a minion. You know, if you build this money that goes to work for you, that's the old way of saying it, going to work for you, you can build a duplicate of you. And people don't realize that's possible. So I like to put that in their pocket and say, build a minion. You know, this thing's going to go to work and come back with another paycheck for you.
I think we're just in the beginning. I think we're shifting, right? Where we have new asset classes that are getting out of their infantile stages right now. And now they're becoming teenagers and they'll be adults soon. And I think we're going to start to develop new asset classes as well. With that, I think, I know just 2 days ago, there was a new platform launched called Galaxy One. I was telling Luigi about it. This used to only be accessible to institutional traders, right? Their theory is very simple. You're not going to go to a bank anymore. Everything's going to be kept in the Robinhood platform, and you're going to do all your banking, all of your trading, and everything is just going to be looked together, right? Now, that does exist today, but it's only for very wealthy people high up in Morgan Stanley's private client group, right? They're keeping their money with Morgan Stanley. They're not keeping their money at JP Morgan Chase, right? So, and they're using their Morgan Stanley accounts as traditional checking and banking accounts. And because they do that, they get better rates of return on their cash. This one platform is paying 8% just to hold your cash there.
Scott, I'm curious. You spend a great deal of your time and resources in helping and educating others. What was your epiphany that made you focus this path in life?
10 years ago, I figured I was going to either figure out how to maintain a home, fix a car, or figure out this money thing. And I chose the money path. Still no good at the house or car. Those are yet to be determined. But so I studied it. I got over the hump myself. I realized money, once I understood the environment, the ecosystem of money, which is, once again, it's intimidating. We're told it's not for you. But I learned about it, and everything from debt and, savings and insurance and retirement savings and paying a mortgage and taking loans out, all that stuff. Once you learn that ecosystem, it's actually like a sheep in wolf's clothing, right? It's scary on the outside, but it's got a soft center. And so once I got over that, I voraciously read. I read dozens and dozens of finance books, starting with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, finishing with The Psychology of Money, everything in between. Was listening to podcasts, going to workshops. Every time we're at the library, my son's picking up a comic book. I'm picking up the finance magazines. And I just voraciously went for it. And then when I started hearing the numbers of that most of us are in debt, that, hey, our shiny lifestyles and our Instagram lifestyles are, for the most part, most of us have something different under the hood, that our bank accounts aren't saying the same thing. When I realized that parity there, I said, I got to do something about this. I'm a communicator. Most people got analysis paralysis. They don't want to touch this finance stuff. They don't think it's for them, but it is. And the empowerment I felt, and I'm a creative thinker, when I developed those 3 financial epiphanies and they worked and I put them to the test, I said, this is what I want to offer other people. So in the pie that makes up these different financial solutions, if that's the right piece for you, you can go ahead and dive in and grab yourself a slice.
Scott,
that's what I wanted to do.
Thank you so much for being here. We want to be respectful of your time. Can you tell the audience where they can find you and how they can get in touch with you and view your courses?
Yeah, financialepiphany.com. Go there. My book is available there. Free download. You can contact me directly. That's the way.
Scott, thank you. One question before I let you run. If you had to pick one stock today, what would it be?
One stock. Boy, I do have to go. I know it's cheating, but I do have to go back to the answer for the common person, which is the S&P 500 index fund. One of those. Is that an answer? It's not a single stock.
Take that. Fair enough.
Because it aligns with what I teach. I just keep pointing people back to that.
Scott, thank you. Everybody, that's a wrap of the Liquid Lunch Project. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Let's go!